Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you had a nice weekend and at least got outside Saturday and enjoyed the nice weather, and I don't know, maybe got outside yesterday if you thought yesterday was nice weather. Most people probably didn't. Okay, so today we're going to continue along our discussion of search engines, but before we get into that, a few announcements. Solutions to the organ donation homework assignment will be posted, 9 o'clock. I've already uploaded them to Blackboard. They'll go live in 30 minutes. Please take a look over those and let us know if you have any questions. Remember that our quiz on that unit will be in class on Wednesday at the end of class. Also remember that due tonight is the first draft of your term paper. So please make sure you get that submitted. Basically, remember the first draft, so long as it's a good faith effort, it's full credit for submission. Just make sure it's a PDF file. And remember that it's anonymous, which is to say your name, neither your name nor your student ID are in the file name, etc. Tomorrow at noon, Blackboard will then randomly distribute your paper to 4 of your peers. Likewise, you will randomly get 4 of your peers' papers. And in the next week, you need to sort of look over those papers and give them some constructive feedback and some comments. And those are due by end of the day next Wednesday, so 9 days from now. Once that's over, you'll be given the feedback that your peers left for you. You'll have about a week to revise your paper. And 2 weeks from Wednesday, I believe, is the day you submit your final draft, and that is off your desk and done. Okay? Any questions about that procedure? Yes?
Do you only get comments from peers or do you get comments from...
So at this point in time, you're only going to get comments from your peers. And so just as a note, for sort of grading the first draft submission, your participation in the peer review, all of the remaining grades for the term paper project will be posted at the same time at the end of the semester. We'll go through and look over what you did for your first draft, how the peer review worked, at the same time that we grade the final draft. So it'll be probably still the better part of a month before these grades are posted. That's not because we're sitting on everything. It's just the way it's set up in the system. That's the easiest way for us to grade it, is to just do it all at the same time. So it'll be a little while before those grades are posted. Okay, other questions? All right, does anybody have any questions about what we talked about last time as we started our search engine unit? Okay, then today, as I said, we're going to continue our discussion of search engines, but we're going to continue it sort of a jovial fashion. Many of you might know that tomorrow is Halloween. Since I don't teach classes on Tuesdays, I put on my best costume of a disaffected college professor as I could for you today. And I think in honor of the holiday, we should have a little bit of fun today instead of maybe continuing along with our unit. So I think you'll be glad you got up this morning. So we'll continue our discussion of algorithm analysis and search engines and all that on Wednesday. We're going to do something maybe a little bit more fun. And so you'll notice here there's sort of interlude in the notes. And so one of the fun things that we can have with Google, so we're going to have sort of 2 parts to this lecture. The first part, if anybody ever watched David Letterman before he went off the air, and on occasion he would have the segment, Stupid Animal Tricks, we're going to have sort of our Stupid Google Tricks segment today at the beginning, looking at some of the things Google can do. And then second, well, we'll get to what comes second when we get there. But anyway, so for some fun with search engines, has anybody ever used autocomplete on Google? So you all know there's sort of that I'm feeling lucky button where you can type in your search phrase, and if you just hit the I'm feeling lucky, it'll just take you to whatever the first thing is that it recommends. In certain cases, Google will also maybe try to make recommendations as you start to type in what it is you're searching for to try to recommend, oh, is this what you're looking for? Or, you know, that way if you're lazy and don't have to type. And of course, if you have a Google account or a Gmail account, it'll start building history over all of your search terms. So be careful if you're ever on a projector logged into your Google account, which I am most certainly not. Okay, so, but has anybody ever tried this? So you can see here, you know, if you say, how do you use Google, and, you know, how to use Google, how to use Google Docs, how to use Groupon, how to use Google Drive. So maybe that's one of the questions you were going to Google to ask. Maybe it isn't, in which case you can keep typing. It's usually pretty funny if you type in sort of just leading questions that are sort of very open-ended just to see what sort of weird things come up. So this morning when I typed it, so why is, I don't know, in some recommended questions, why is the sky blue? I'm not entirely sure why these appeared in Google this morning, but this is what came up. Why is it rated R? I'm guessing that's referring to some movie, but I'm not entirely sure which one. Why is my poop green? It's a good question. Why is Halloween celebrated? Okay, what do you think are the odds you'll see that fourth one this time next week? Probably nil. So we can also sort of ask other questions. When will? The funny thing is on this one, every semester we'll type this in. The top three are the same. They might change order around, but we always get when will the world end, we always get when will it snow, and we always get when will I die. This semester, our fourth one is when will time change? Okay, public service announcement. What do you get this weekend? Well, I was going to say an extra hour of sleep, but you're all undergrads. I know better than that. You'll get an extra hour to your life. When I teach this class in the spring, this lecture usually falls right around the beginning of April, so it's when will I get my tax refund? Is usually the fourth one that comes up. So I think what we can do is maybe play a little bit of a game here and see what other phrases do you think we should see, does Google have insightful answers to? This is actually a game. If any of you ever watched the At Midnight on Comedy Central before it went off the air, this would be a game from time to time, predicting what'll it show. So does anybody have a leading question that's very vague that we might want to see what the gods of Google suggest? Yep. How does? Okay. Anybody have ideas? What is how does going to bring up? Anybody have any thoughts, or anybody have something they'd like to see how does bring up? Well, let's see what Google's thinking this morning. How does Uber work? How does PayPal work? How does the World Series work? Okay, so it's just a whole bunch of things of how do different things work. Okay, well I guess that sort of makes sense with how does. Maybe, I don't know, do we want to narrow this down a little bit more, or what would maybe come after how does in our search term? And the projector also says Happy Monday. Other how does? Okay, how does my, oh, this is getting dangerous. How does my net worth compare? How does my salary compare? How does MyFitnessPal calculate calories? I know that's what I was thinking. How does my cousin Rachel end? How does my realtor get paid? How does my Lanta work? Yeah, okay. Anyone have indigestion? I think it's indigestion medicine. How can I? Oh dear. How can I keep from singing? Okay, well that one's pretty straightforward, just don't. How can it be lyrics? How can I watch Game of Thrones? How can I keep from singing lyrics? Okay, so apparently there's a rash of spontaneous singing going on in Google right now. How can I get a loan? Okay, hey, here's actually something like a positive thing. How can I help Puerto Rico? That's unusual. Usually you don't see nice things in this. How can I lose weight? How can I help you in Spanish? Okay, so these are all maybe legitimate questions. Surprised we've done 4 of them now and haven't gotten anything particularly outrageous yet.
Sometimes I like to.
Oh dear God. Sometimes I like to. I'm afraid. Sometimes I like to curl up in a ball. Sometimes I like to be alone. Sometimes I like to use big words. Sometimes I like to lie. Sometimes I like to spank my dough. We're just not going to... The bottom one is also particularly disturbing. And so be careful when you're asking Google for advice. That's the theme here. It's really good at maybe helping you find information, sometimes maybe too good at helping you find certain pieces of information.
I was going to say, I think the sixth one says, I think the sixth one is like a jigsaw, I guess. So this is, I like to play the game.
Yeah, sometimes I like to play a little game. Yep. Other leading questions we'd like to ask Google? Why won't? Why won't Steam open? Okay, that is definitely, that's a big problem. Why won't my printer print? Why won't my iPhone turn on? Why won't my iPhone charge? Because that's a crappy battery, that's easy. Why won't you die? Okay, and it's a little morbid per se, but you know, okay, you can work with that. Other burning questions for Google? Why does? Why does Billy hate Lucas? Why does my chest hurt? Why does my back hurt? Okay, current events. Why does Catalonia want independence? Why does my eye twitch? Why does ice float? We're going to just sort of avoid the bottom areas. pun intended. And by the way, when you're doing this with sort of these leading phrases, hit this button at your own adventure. You might get some weird things. Okay, any other questions? Yeah. Why don't? So similar to this one. Why don't we boys? Why don't we ages? Why don't we names? Why don't we boys' names? Why don't we merch? Okay, I don't know. Nothing striking out there to me as particularly.
Tell me why.
Okay, well that's just not giving anything. I was hoping to get why won't the Dodgers just lose, but other things that we'd like to search?
Tell me why.
Tell me why lyrics, tell me why Beatles, tell me why Neil Young. Okay, so it's getting into whole music scene here. Yep. Why am I? Why am I so tired? Why am I always tired? Why am I always hungry? Why am I always cold? Speaking of Mylanta, why am I so gassy? Why am I breaking up? Why am I here? That's probably what you're asking yourselves most mornings. But yet you still keep showing up. So, okay. Maybe one more question that we want to have we need to know the answer to? Who is? Who is the richest person in the world? Who is Gossip Girl? Who is Antifa? Okay. These are all potentially legit questions. Okay, so the idea here is, if you put in some sort of leading phrase, have some fun with this outside of class and see if you come up with anything particularly funny. You can find some good ones. Another fun thing that Google will sometimes do is it's got little sort of Easter eggs built in. And so, for instance, if you actually Google recursion, so first of all, the second thing gives you is the definition. So recursion, the repeated application of a recursive procedure or definition. But notice above that, what did Google do? Did you mean recursion? Because it's the doing the same thing. The Google engineers do have a sense of humor. So normally when you see the did you mean, that's usually a tip-off that you did what in your search bar. You spelled it wrong. And it's going to say, oh, wait, are you sure you didn't mean to spell it right? And we'll just search for that. Don't worry. We know what you really meant. Which, to some extent, should scare you that Google actually knows what you meant more than your fingers did. I don't know. Does anybody else suffer from stupid fingers like me when you're typing? Okay. So the point is there's sort of lots of neat things here in Google. There are other Easter eggs. We could probably Google Easter eggs and see what other fun search terms there could be. But I'll let you do that on your own time. So we're going to be sort of switching back and forth here for a while. So you can see that. Something that's maybe a little bit more practical. Has anybody here ever used advanced search on Google? Okay, there's a couple of ways. Does anybody know what advanced search does? Or maybe want to take a guess? So it gives you a lot more options. So the normal Google, you go to google.com and there's the search bar, and you can type in whatever phrase you're looking for. But there's advanced search where you can actually try to parse that into much more specific things. And so I just took a quick screenshot here, and I'll confess this picture's a little bit old. It looks a little different today. But you can say sort of find pages with, and now there's different boxes where you say all of these words, this exact word or phrase, any of these words. You can exclude things. You can say find pages with none of these words. And there's a whole bunch of other options that are available. So naturally, to find advanced search, we Google advanced search, which brings up Google Advanced Search. And so you can see as we can get numbers ranging from, but then sort of there's a whole bunch of other options where you can say narrow your results by. Do you want it in a particular language? And it'll try to find it. Should it be published maybe in a specific region? So you can sort of narrow down a country. It's possible continents are on here too. When was it last updated? Okay, we talked about this last time. Do we necessarily want to use web pages that were published 20 years ago? Maybe, but not necessarily. We can restrict sites or domains. So let's say you're looking for, you're working on your term paper and you're trying to find some sort of credible source, and maybe you say, oh, well, I want to see what someone from the academy says about my technology. I'm doing GPS. And so we could come into advanced search, And we could put in star.edu there, and then what that's going to tell Google is only return websites coming from .edu websites. If it's coming from a .com, I don't care. If it's coming from a .org, I don't care. And could that be potentially something you might want to do at some point? Sure. You can be more specific. Let's say you only wanted things on GPS from Stony Brook. So you can type in stonybrook.edu as your domain, and it will only return web pages and resources from stonybrook.edu. We can say, if we had these terms appearing up here, we can specify where those terms should appear. Are they in the title, in the text, in the URL, in links? I'm not going to tell you what safe search is, but if you don't know, you should look it up on your own time. We can look at different file types. So maybe we only want PDF files, or we only want Google Earth files, if we were looking for something geographical. And then, of course, usage rights, we can actually try to filter by license, which might be particularly useful if you're looking for what type of information. When do you think the licensing would be most useful? Has anybody thought about licenses much when you think about publishing things online? Well, everything published online has some form of license in it, whether you're thinking about it or not. But if you're going to look at usage rights, when do you think that might be the most useful? I would argue probably for multimedia. Because how many times have you gone to a website where you're looking for a picture and you go Google for one and you see it and you want to use it either in a presentation that you're giving or a paper that you're writing? Has anybody done that? Has anybody done that on something that's due in less than 24 hours? Okay, there's a couple hands that go up. Okay, did you actually check? Does the license permit you to do that? Whoever posted that image online released it under some form of license. Okay, so maybe if you were doing this search and this was a more professional thing where potentially you're a company and if it's not just open domain publication, you might have to pay a usage fee to the author, to the copyright holder, to use that image. And so maybe when you were searching, you would want to restrict and say, well, only show me things that are open license because I'm poor and I don't want to pay to have to use it. Okay? And so you could do that as well as you're searching. So lots of neat things. Like I said, play around with this a little bit outside of class and see what you can find. But it's really quite useful if you need to do a little bit more advanced searching. Any questions on that? So this is sort of the practical part of today's lesson. Now we'll go back to fun stuff. Okay, so are there ways to search things for other things than web pages or online resources? So certainly, one instance that we've already discussed a little bit is Google Images. What does Google Images allow you to search for? It allows you to search for images. You can go to images.google.com. I think that's the link for it. And if you type in, I don't know, tree, it's going to give you a lot of pictures of trees. Probably some in bloom, probably some at this time in the fall where they're all sort of dazzling colors. Some in the summer where they're green, some where they're completely barren in the winter, but you're going to find all sorts of trees. Okay? So rather than our normal search where what we've been talking about so far, we go to Google, we put in a term, and we're looking for resources on the web, whether they're web pages, PDF documents, etc., we could actually just search for images. Are there other things that we can search for? Maybe not necessarily through Google, but are there other tools that you use that allow you to search? And what is it that you're searching? Anybody have any ideas? Has anybody ever used Shazam on your phone? Is Shazam essentially a search engine? Yeah. Sure. What is it searching? Searching music. So you can go in now, rather than typing in some search phrase, what's your input to Shazam? To say, here's what I want to know about. It's actually music. It turns on, it activates the microphone on your phone, and it listens to that song, and it searches through this huge database of music to try to identify what song is this. But is that fundamentally a search engine? Sure. But again, using a different type of input and searching a different type of domain of information. Okay, so now that maybe we've got the ball rolling, can you think of other different types of search engines that search things other than just web pages and images and whatnot? Can you think of any others? Okay, so Amazon searches products. So we can do, different things like that. So you go to Amazon, type in the search term, and rather than giving you websites, it's going to give you things to hawk. So it wants to make money. eBay does a similar thing. Yeah, absolutely. Other, yep? Okay, so you can use Facebook to search for people. Absolutely. So there you've got this whole domain of all of these people, real or imaginary, and you can search them. And on top of Facebook, you can also search bands, public officials, groups, all sorts of things, but sort of sociological information.
Could you use like IMDb to look up like movies?
Sure, we can use IMDb to look up movies. We saw an example of that when we had our 6 degrees of Wikipedia, or our 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in the last unit, where we went to Wikipedia and we could search what was a different actor, or actress, or writer, or director, or music composer, what works had they worked on. Yep. So does anybody here interested in or heard of bioinformatics? Okay, so this is the idea where in all of us, in all of our cells, there's all these DNA nucleotides spelling out our genetic sequence. There's a whole field of study called bioinformatics dedicated to understanding what's going on in that genome. And can we compare two individuals? Can we compare different species? And how does that relate to biological activity? Okay, but that's just basically bioinformatics is one big search engine. Okay, anyone here who's actually really studied bioinformatics would probably throw something at me for saying this, but let's assume we're not there. But it's one big search engine where instead of searching images or music or movies, you're searching genomes and looking to see what's going on from one individual to another or one species to another at a genetic level. But that's a search engine. Other ideas? We've had some good ones so far. One other thing that's kind of fun is, has anybody ever used Google Trends? If you want to sort of get into the metaphysics of searching, you can search what people are searching. Okay, so take a moment, wrap your head around that. I've got an example here in the slides, but we'll go ahead and pull that up and actually look at it in real time. But you can come over here and go to Google Trends, and we can compare what are people searching. So right now, Google is kind enough to tell us who's searching about the Trump administration. Related to Halloween, are people searching for haunted houses, corn mazes, or pumpkin patches? And what we seem to see is, the Northeast and sort of the North and even the historical Deep South really likes haunted houses. Idaho apparently likes corn mazes, and the Southwest likes pumpkin patches. Okay. So we can explore other things, and the example that we had on the slide, we can search Harry Potter. So over the last 12 months, it's been fairly flat. Let's go ahead and widen this out. Google Trends started in 2004, so they've got about 13 years of data. And we see different spikes occurring here. What do you think these different spikes correspond to? Why were people suddenly searching Google Trends and looking for Harry Potter? So this is when maybe a movie came out. What else might it be? The biggest peak here is actually not a movie. It's a book. So we can come in here and look, and this is July 2007. What came out in July 2007 for those of you that are Harry Potter fans? It's book 7. Okay, so here you've got book 7. This is, I believe, movie 6 came out in 2009. Movie 7 or movie 7 part 1, and then either movie 8 or movie 7 part 2, however you want to count that, came out. But you can see, around those things, and you can sort of track that when Harry Potter was big and in the news and this stuff, everyone's searching for it. Okay, so in the battle of nerddom, we can also come in and compare Star Wars and see, okay, well, how does Star Wars compare? Well, sure enough, in terms of actual mass searches, it looks like Star Wars and Harry Potter are about equally popular amongst people. Okay, when they peak at about the same value. Why does Star Wars have fewer peaks over this range? There's not as much stuff happening. Okay, so what do you think this big peak is here, sort of May 2005-ish?
I think that was when the Revenge of the Sith came out.
Right, that's episode 3. That's Revenge of the Sith. Then nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. There's just sort of this baseline value. Nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened until December 2015. What happened? Episode 7. Huge spike. I think this is Rogue One, maybe? Yeah, that's Rogue One. Last year, which no one really cared about. And it might have been. I'm not really a Star Wars person. Okay, I sat through the first 30 minutes of episode 7 and turned it off. And notice, like right now, at least you can start to see that there's a bit of an uptick. And what do you think is going to happen here in the next couple weeks?
December is going to fly right back.
It's going to spike right back up because in December, episode 8 comes out. Okay, so maybe you're feeling bored around Christmas and thinking there was this crazy lecture back around Halloween. You come back and look at Google Trends and see, does Star Wars end up being more popular than Harry Potter? Right now, the answer is sort of not really. Okay, and now to answer the question, who's more popular, nerds or sports? We can put in the World Series. Yeah, so I think the nerds win. So let's for a moment just clear these out and look at the World Series just on its own. And so what we start to notice here, do we see a pretty regular pattern in this? Yeah. What do you think that regular pattern is? It's when the World Series is on. So notice, this big peak happens in probably about October. Of course, it's not bringing it up, but yeah, there's October, 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 Cubs. I'm from Chicago, okay? Zemeckis was only off by 1 year, if you know Back to the Future Part 2. Okay? So now the question, if anyone is a World Series fan, we can also look at the region. And who's searching about the World Series? The U.S., because does anybody else care about baseball? I mean, realistically, does the U.S. even really care much about baseball? No, they like Harry Potter and Star Wars. So now, what we can have for our prediction now, we can have, let's look at the Los Angeles Dodgers compared to the Houston Astros, and let's see who Google Trends thinks is going to win. And I think Google is suggesting the Astros are going to win. Google may very well be right. We'll find out in the next couple days. Okay? And just because I'm curious. Hey, and the Cubs are still more popular than all of them. Okay. So we can have some fun and look around and see what's going on. So let's sort of continue. What are things people would want to search for to see trends? Or do we have a question first? Okay, what do you want to see? Which one? Okay, this is fun. So let's clear these out. Okay, so we had search for the solar eclipse. And we can see naturally there was a huge spike a while ago, which is infinitely more popular than the Astros. And see, my eyes hurt. Okay, my eyes hurt just gets nothing. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Nothing's coming up here in the.
It's because the eclipse has so many more views.
Right.
The red one looks small. If you search for my eyes hurt by itself.
Okay, so let's do my eyes hurt by itself. Yep, and you notice there's a pretty good spike right around the time of the eclipse. Okay. So thinking back to a little while ago, causation or correlation? Well, it's certainly correlated. Is this one causal? Yeah, probably. Okay. Other things we want to see, what were people searching for? Any other battles we want to have?
I just have one.
Yeah.
Can you say Mario Odyssey?
Mario Odyssey. I think I spelled that right. Okay, well, naturally, no one was searching Mario Odyssey 10 years ago. That's maybe a good thing, actually. And we're seeing sort of an uptick here, and it's expected to sort of skyrocket in coming days. Yep. Okay, compare it to Stranger Things. Mario wins. Okay, fair enough. Mario still is going to win. Oh, wow. But the point is, no one was searching for either one of them 10 years ago. So I'm sort of curious with the Mario, how does that compare to Legend of Zelda? Okay, well, Zelda beats the crud out of Mario. Let's just see for kicks. And Galaxy is still beating Odyssey. We'll see if that holds. Again, Odyssey, we're still on the uptick. We don't know where exactly it's going to peak yet. Okay, any other things people want to see compared? What's more popular?
A lot of Marvel DC movies coming out.
Okay, so we want the whole Marvel DC smackdown. Because
Which one's gonna win?
okay, so we got Justice League coming out here later this month, and Thor is what, on Friday? Yep. I think Marvel's just got that one in the bag.
I think Marvel's made more movies though. So
Well, Marvel's made more movies, but more specifically, Marvel's made more good movies. They keep saying, oh, it's a new Superman, it's going to be great, and then it isn't. Yep.
look up Call of Duty and see like if it really just peaks every November.
Okay, does Call of Duty just peak every November? Yeah, it sort of looks that way. Although it's getting diminished as each one sort of goes on.
Trust me, no Super Bowl Friday. Watch.
It had its heyday back here. Okay, so maybe one of the eternal questions that we can also answer with this. And the answer is dogs win. Like, handily. And that's about what I would have expected. No one likes ferrets. Penguins. Okay, well, let's just get rid of the ferrets. Okay, penguins are more popular than ferrets. No, that doesn't really surprise me either. Okay. Other burning sociological questions that you would like to have tried out in the arena of Google Trends.
Rick and Morty,
Rick and Morty compared to?
I guess. Riverdale.
Compared to Riverdale, okay. I have a feeling I know which one's going to win. Okay, so they're actually fairly competitive with each other. But Rick and Morty's on the downside, on the downslope right now. Yep.
Rick and Morty to South Park.
To South Park. Okay. And interesting, Riverdale is very popular, much more popular in India. And France and Holland. Okay, we said, I'm sorry, what was it again? South Park. Okay, so South Park is pretty popular, but in the very near term, Rick and Morty is more popular. And if we really want to get into satirical TV shows,
Obviously, Family Guy is coming up.
we can put in The Simpsons, which just clobbers them all, but has sort of been on a pretty steady downslope the last couple years. Okay, we want to see Family Guy too. And Family Guy is about on par with South Park. Okay. Other burning sociological questions we want to have answered?
University of Michigan, Michigan State.
Oh, near and dear to my heart. Knock knock. Who's there? Foreign. Foreign who? 4-1. I'm a Michigan State fan. And Michigan State beat Michigan 3 weeks ago. I was very happy. What is it? Not 2 years in a row, more like 7 out of the last 8. Okay, well, so historically Michigan was more popular, but in recent years it's becoming less clear. Okay, so certainly this is probably all college football season. Yep. So Michigan is still more popular, but Michigan's waning because, wow, they suck. Okay, I appreciate that question, but sadly Michigan is slightly on top. That makes me not happy. Mac versus Windows. Okay, there's a fight waiting to happen. Mac is more popular than Michigan. Good. Windows. Okay, and just for fairness. Yeah, that's okay. Well, it actually had something back 10 years ago. Well, I tried to do operating system across all three. Okay, so just Macintosh. Doesn't really make that much of a difference.
How about Apple versus Android?
Okay, we can add that in. Okay, so at Mac is so dude, you're getting a Dell. They were common and not so much. Okay, so we wanted Mac versus Android. Smartphone. Boom. Okay. Other questions? Yeah.
Harry Potter versus Twilight.
Harry Potter versus Twilight. Ooh boy. This could get heated. I know which one I want to win.
Please tell me you say Harry Potter.
Yes. Yeah, of course it's Harry Potter. I know how to spell Twilight. Okay. And all is right in the universe. Okay, maybe one more if people have ideas and then we'll move on.
Stony Brook versus Binghamton.
Stony Brook versus Binghamton.
I think we should do Stony Brook versus Westbury. Wow.
Is there a P in it or not?
No.
There it is.
Hey,
Yep. Okay, not competitive.
we're both on the alpha level.
Well, there's sort of the cycle. So right now, application season is open, so you're probably seeing an uptick as people are searching. Aww. We're losing to Buffalo. So your homework tonight is to all go Google Stony Brook. Just go to Google, type in Stony Brook. Go to a different computer and type in Stony Brook. And then go to a third computer and type in Stony Brook. Okay? We can all do that, right? Do we think Syracuse would be on top of both of them? Yeah. Oh, I'm sort of surprised by that. Okay. Yeah, there we go.
We're not catching up, but they're falling down to us.
No, I'm going to say we're catching up. I'm going to spin it that way. Okay. So the point is we can actually sort of answer some interesting sociological questions if we were so inclined. But this is sort of also a neat tool if you're curious about these things. Okay. So let's come back over here. And so maybe now ask the question, so one of the things in your term paper that I wanted you to try to discuss a little bit is what do you think the future is going to bring? So let's sort of take a moment and think about that in terms of search engines. What do you think the future of search engines is? So certainly in the last 30 years, we've gone from card catalogs to Google and Google Trends and Google Images and Shazam and IMDb and Netflix and all of these things. That's a very marked change in a very short period of time. What do you think Google or whatever search engine is going to be, what's it going to look like 15 years from now? What are some new things we might be able to do that we can't do presently?
I think it's going to know what we're going to search before we actually search it.
It's going to know what we're going to search before we actually search it. It's trying to do that now, but I was not actually curious why my poop was green. But that's something maybe those tools are going to improve as time goes on. And as we start typing, or when neural interfaces get developed, we can just sort of like think the search and things come up. But sure, that's potentially something that they're working towards.
Don't you when you type, click into it, start typing stuff in before you type something some amount of things pop up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're sort of getting at. So we're trying to predict what you're searching, and maybe that's going to get better or more predictive as time goes on. Yep. Other ideas. What might change in search engines as time moves forward? What improvements might we see?
Right now, it kind of has what everybody might search, but it's possible that eventually they'll figure out a way to get it so that it knows who's searching and then it will give you things that you search.
Okay, so right now Google tries to look and see what has everybody been searching. And so maybe they're going to start to build up your personal history and try to make better recommendations. They're already starting to do that. Go log in on if you've got a Gmail account and you've been you're logged into it and you search a lot, try doing one search, and then either if you're using Chrome, open up a private window or go to a different web browser where you're not logged into Google and try running the same search, and you'll see that you're going to get probably slightly different orders in certain cases because Google is tracking what you search, what links you go to, and trying to use that information. And certainly I think that's going to get better and more predictive as time goes on, but they're already moving in that direction. Absolutely.
If I like DC Comics, they're not going to show me Marvel.
No, if you like DC Comics and you go, you're at DC Comics all the time and you just Google comic books, it's probably not going to put Marvel up high on the list. At least you would expect it not to, if it were really sort of aware. Yep. Other ideas for the future of searching? Okay, so one that I think is particularly cool, and this is something it's actually fairly close. I think in certain beta instances or certain places you can find it already, but it's not become completely mainstream, is we talked about Google Images a little while ago where we could go in, and you've gone to Google Images, you can type in the search phrase, so say, I want a picture of the White House. And it will come back and give you lots of pictures of the White House. One's in the fall, one's in the spring, one's when it's raining, one's when it's sunny, one's when it's lit up in rainbow colors, all sorts of different things. Okay? But is that necessarily the only way we would want to search images or search for images? Do you have to put in a text string to be able to find an image? Or would it be convenient, so you go on vacation and you're somewhere in Europe and you're doing like the 12-country tour, and you've got this great picture of a castle that you know you visited somewhere on roll 5 of, oh God, I'm dating myself, on memory card 3 for your phone. I said roll. How many of you have actually used a film camera? Okay, more hands than I expected. Good, you're making me feel not as old. Okay, but you get back home and you're trying to figure out where was that castle. It was either in Germany or Austria, but I don't even remember what day it was taken because I forgot to set the timestamp on my camera, and I can't remember where we were. If you just go Google castle in Germany or Austria and start looking at pictures, are you likely to find it? Probably not. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky. But maybe what you would want to do instead is, rather than putting in a textual search term, could you maybe upload your picture of that castle and ask Google, which castle is this? Here's an image of it. Is that something conceivable to do? Sure. And so there are actually quite a bit of tools working towards this right now. Okay, so Google Goggles already has that. Okay, I haven't kept up on exactly the newest, but I know this is something they're working towards. And so there's some of the research going on. There's a Professor Kristen Grauman. There's a link here to some of her research pages. But going on, you can see where now she just was looking at sort of houses from a residential and real estate perspective. But how do you actually start to break up these images that you could upload into these various components to distinguish what is the house from the sky? You know, in this case here, well, there was a house, there's the mailbox, maybe there's a driveway or sidewalk, and there's a lawn. Here, we have to sort of see, well, the house is obstructed by these trees. Are we interested in the trees, or are we interested in the house? Okay, the weather conditions can vary. Here it's kind of overcast on the left, but it's a nice blue sunny day on the right. And how do you distinguish these elements to try to then put that into a search engine to say, here's what I'm trying to search for? And this is still an area of ongoing research where these technologies are probably, within the next 5 years, I think they'll be sort of more mainstream, and they're already kind of there if you know where to go look for them. But this is something that we're moving towards. But this could fundamentally change, in some ways, how the searches are actually done. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about any of this? So this is sort of the end of our stupid Google tricks part of the lecture. We're going to go on to something completely different. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so then switch back. So last time we started talking about search engines, but we then related that to say search engines are basically one big algorithm, where they go out, they look at what data is available, and they have to index it or catalog it in some way. Then when someone brings a search query, they have to search through that catalog and try to figure out what's relevant to the query, sort everything after assigning sort of what's the relevance to make, here's what we think are the most relevant resources to your query, and then always keep updating it. And this is a big algorithm that's done by the search engines and using their spiders or web crawlers. But this is just one big type of algorithm. And so we talked about last time, what are algorithms? And we paused for a moment and asked sort of, what are some algorithms in real life? And I asked you for some examples, and you gave some great ones. Does anybody remember what they are, or you've thought up new instances of what are algorithms in real life? Anybody remember or have other ideas? We've got cooking. Exactly. So I think today what we can do in honor of Halloween is celebrate cooking by having some chocolate chip cookies and making some cookies. So I have brought my kitchen with me. We've got a whole bunch of different ingredients here. We've got eggs and whatnot, but before we get that out, let's line the table so we don't make a complete mess. See, you thought I was crazy, but now you know I really am. Okay, so we've got a pan for our cookies, and we've got some mixing bowls and some measuring cups, and we've got vanilla, and we've got eggs, and we've got spray, chocolate chips, flour, let's see, sugars, salt. Okay, so the one thing we have to do, so there's the recipe and all that on here. Unfortunately, butter is hard to do here because notice there's not a microwave in the room here. So we're just going to use vegetable oil instead of butter. Everybody's okay with that substitution? Okay, so we'll just pretend that this is liquid butter. This is healthier for you than liquid butter. We've got a mixing spatula that we can use. We've got a whisk. And we've got our baking soda and some measuring cups, or some measuring spoons. Okay, so some of you probably have cooked before. You've done recipes and baking and all of that. What's the first thing we have to do? So we've got our recipe. We're making chocolate chip cookie bars. And there's a link to, I think it's geniusrecipes.com where I got this from, if you want to see it in more detail. But what do we have to start with? For cooking, where do we begin? Well, first we have to sort of gather all of our ingredients. Okay, have we more or less done that? Do we have our butter that's melted? Yep. Do we have flour? Sure. Let's see. Salt. Yep, we've got that. Hopefully I brought everything. I did make a list and I checked it twice. Do I have chocolate chips? Yep, we're good there. 2 different types of sugar. That looks like brown sugar. That looks like regular sugar. Okay, we're good there. Baking soda. Yep. And vanilla. Yep. Okay, so do we have all of our ingredients? Are we ready on that sense? Okay, so we can look at the recipe and it says, combine flour, baking soda, and salt in a small bowl. So what's the first thing now we have to do? Grab a bowl. Okay, so we've got a bowl. Here's a smaller bowl. So what do? What's the next step? Wrong. You said measure out a flour. That is not the next step. What's the first thing we do when we start cooking? We wash our hands. So we have a little bit of hand sanitizer. We'll wash our hands. Make sure, we don't want to make people sick after we're cooking. Ow, that paper cut yesterday really hurts. Okay, so we wash our hands. We've got them nice and sanitized. I'm not going to wait for the alcohol to dry. Okay, so now what do? We measure out the flour. Okay, so how much flour do we need? We need 2 1/4 cups. Well, here's a fun thing. I don't have a 2 1/4 cup measuring cup. So what do we have to do? I have a 1 cup measuring cup, a 1/2 cup, and a 1/4 cup. Okay, so 2 1 cups and a 1/4 cup. So this sounds a little bit like a loop, maybe, because we're going to have to use the 1 cup twice. Okay, so we get our flour out. And we do what now? Okay, so we sort of measure out 1 cup. Now what do? Pour the bag in the bowl? Okay, we just said it. I didn't know what you meant by it. Okay, so put the 1 cup in the bowl. Okay. Oh, dump it. Oh, see, I'm trying to be like a computer, because does the computer really know what you mean? No, it's stupid. Okay, so now what do? Do it again. Okay, so do it again. I can repeat instructions. And I can slop a little flour onto the floor while I'm doing it. Okay, so you do that. And now what do? Do it again? Okay. Okay, so we substitute cup for the 1/4 cup and okay, repeat it with the 1/4 cup. Okay, so there's now our 2 1/4 cups of flour, right? Okay, so what comes next? What do we do next? Yep. Did I preheat the oven? No, I didn't. Very good. So what do we need to do right now? We need to preheat the oven. Okay, so we come over to our oven, and let's see, what temperature do we need? 350. Okay, click. Oven is now preheating. There's a 10-minute timer, and it'll be ready to go ee or something, when it reaches the right temperature. Okay, good call. You bake, don't you?
Yeah, well, you're gonna realize your bowl is laid out and stuff.
Exactly, the oven is cold, which is not really that useful. Okay, so we've got the oven preheated. We've got our flour in there. What's the next thing we do? We have the baking soda. How much baking soda do we need? 1 teaspoon. Okay, well, I have a 1 teaspoon, so what do I do? Okay, we're not going to pour with 1 teaspoon. That's just asking for a disaster. But can we measure out 1 teaspoon? Sure. So we come into our really old and stale baking soda, and we've measured out the 1 teaspoon, and what do? Wait, pour this in the bowl? Okay. All right, so we've got that done, and now what's next? Salt. Okay, how much salt do we need? 1 teaspoon. Okay, we've already got our 1 teaspoon, and so we can pour that out. And dump that in. Okay. What comes next? Well, are we quite done yet? So we've sort of put them all in the bowl. Have we actually combined them? No. So we can pick up, we're going to use the whisk. We can just sort of sit here and, okay. How long do I have to keep doing this? Until combined. Are we pretty satisfied that it's combined? Okay, sure. Okay, so we're done. Okay, what's our next step? Okay, so we've got another bowl. We're going to do this backwards because I should have done the flour and all that in this bowl. It's fine. Okay, in another bowl, beat together. Okay, so we have butter, both sugars, and vanilla. So where do we start here? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make. Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Okay, so we have our melted butter, and what do we have to do? We have to open it. Very good. This is the first semester that's gotten that one. You're not going to make me try to pour oil out of a closed container. Okay, so do we just pour it into the bowl? Okay, well, so then what do? We pour it into the 1 cup measuring cup. Stop when you get to the top. Good. Good. Okay, so we've got 1 cup, pour it in the bowl, done. We'll close the oil. Okay, what's next?
The sugars and the vanilla.
Okay, so we've got the sugars, so which sugar do we want to do first? Brown sugar, got it. Okay, so we can open the brown sugar, and how much do we need? 3/4 cup. I don't have a 3/4 cup measuring cup.
Do the 1/4 cup.
Okay, so we can do the 1/4 cup 3 times. We could also do the 1/2 and 1/4. Does it really matter? Not really. Okay, so let's do the 1/2. Okay, brown sugar is tricky. So we're going to get a spoon. And because we like our cookies really sweet, we're going to compress the brown sugar so that we make sure we get a full 3/4 cup in here. Okay, so there's a 1/2 cup. And we need to do the same thing with the 1/4 cup, right? Okay. Yep, and that looks about right. Okay, so brown sugar's done. What's next? We'll do the white sugar, right, or the cane sugar. Okay, so we can open that up. This bag was not cooperative yesterday. Okay, and we can do the same thing. Sort of use the 1/2 and the 1/4 again? Okay. This sugar pours better. There's the 1/2. There's the 1/4. Okay, so sugars are done. What's the next step? The vanilla. And how much vanilla do we need? We just need a teaspoon. So we pull out our teaspoon, we grab our vanilla, and what do? First we shake up the vanilla. We open it, we pour out a teaspoon, And frankly, if I was really baking this, I would just pour the bottle in. Save the teaspoon, but we'll do that. There's no such thing as too much vanilla extract. Okay, put that away. What's next? Well, is eggs next? Because remember, we got this other instruction here. So we've mixed the butter, the both sugars, and the vanilla, but have we beat them together? Nope. So we'll take our orange Halloween spatula, which just incidentally is the only spatula I own. And we can mix this together to make what I'm sure is something that tastes absolutely delightful. I mean, think about it. This is basically just butter and sugar. Okay. And we've got that beat together, right? So what do we do next? Okay, so add the first egg. So we just put the egg in the... Oh, we have to crack the egg and then drop the shell in.
No, just drop the yolk in and put the shells.
Just drop the yolk. We're not using the white? And the white. Okay. So we can crack the egg. Yeah, without dropping the shell. Everyone's a critic. Okay. So that one's done. And what comes next?
You have to beat it thoroughly.
Okay, so we have to beat it thoroughly and mix this egg in. It is 2 eggs, but read the rest of the instruction. Okay, so first egg is happy. What do we do now? Add the second egg. The same way, right? Okay, there's a small piece of shell, but we don't care. It's really tiny. Whoever gets that piece just gets a little bit extra calcium. Okay, so we've got now that second egg beaten in, because I'm paranoid, and I've had food poisoning too many times. I'll go ahead and do that again. What comes next?
Gradually beat the flour mixture into the butter mixture.
Okay, so we gradually beat the flour mixture into the butter mixture. So we can pick this up and we'll put maybe about half of it in. And we can, okay, is that sufficiently well beaten? Okay, so what do we have to do? We have to keep beating until, okay, so this sounds sort of like a loop and a decision. When is mixed enough? Okay, so we can, literally it's a loop because I'm just going around. We can try to fold this in. Oh well. The chair was hungry too. Okay, does that look good enough to everyone? Okay, so what do we do next? Okay, so we'll add the rest of it, and we mix it again. Okay, trying not to get any on the chair this time. The dough starts getting a little stiff. What was that? Means you're doing something right. Not necessarily. Some doughs are pretty liquidy. Other ones are thick as rocks. This one's sort of just nice and intermediate. Okay, so that looked pretty good? Okay, so what do we do next? Okay, so we stir in the chocolate chips. We will assume that I have already measured out 6 ounces of chocolate chips, which is to say that's about half of this package, and I'm done. Okay? And so, have we stirred them in? Nope. Okay, so we got to stir them in a little bit. Beep! Oh, oven's ready. Well, that's convenient because we're almost done making our batter. Okay, so we've got our chocolate chips mixed in and our batter's ready. What do we do now? Oh, we spray the pan. Very good. What would happen if we didn't spray the pan? They would stick. Okay, so we can pull out our cooking spray. Get the corners nice and good. We've got our pan is all ready. And what next? Okay, so we start placing the dough on the pan. Thud. Clean out the bowl. Okay, and we're done, right? Oh, we have to spread it out. Okay. Picky, 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 picky. And so we can spread that out into the pan. Good? So what happens now? We put it in the oven. Okay, so we open up the oven, we put it in. Okay, we'll pretend that's sitting in the oven. And what do? We set the timer for 25 minutes or so. Okay, microwave timer is set. Now what do? We close the oven door. Good call. I mean, I know it's starting to get cold outside, but there are better ways to heat your dorm. So what now? We wait 25 to 30 minutes because, well, we already set the temperature because the oven was preheating. It was ready. So 25 minutes later, beep, time goes off. And we come and we look in our oven, and what do? Okay, well, do we necessarily want to turn off the oven? We should make sure the cookies are done first. Okay, so we open up our oven, we look, the cookies look like they're done. So we turn off the oven, and then we put on our oven mitts. Thank you for taking care of my hands. And we do what? We remove the cookies. And so if you've ever watched Martha Stewart-style cooking shows, you know that there are always done ones prepared. And we have chocolate chip cookies. So that ends our practical. We'll discuss this example a little bit more on Wednesday and sort of talk about what we were doing and why we spent this time. In the meantime, have a wonderful Halloween. Please come up and get some cookies on your way out. And have a wonderful afternoon.